Canada's largest military overseas deployment is being extended until 2031. Operation Reassurance in Latvia is in place to deter Russian aggression in the Baltic region. Prime Minister Mark Carney announced the extension on the margins of the NATO summit in Turkey. News that comes as Russia's war on Ukraine is well into its fifth year. So what is the future of Canada's presence in Latvia beyond 2031? Kaspars Pudāns is Latvia's Chief of Defence. Thank you very much for joining us today, sir. I want to start with Canada and Latvia obviously have a very deep military connection, but we're keen to learn what exactly brings you to Canada in this moment.
Well, thank you for having me here. And yes, indeed, over a particular last decade, our relations under the auspices of NATO, but bilateral relations along with this, been incredible. Canada has stepped up in 2014, 2016, particularly in supporting us in defending, deterring threats on eastern flank. We all know what's happened in Ukraine and what's even escalated further on in 2022 in Ukraine. That's demonstrated that being on a right spot, on the right time, I would say. And definitely this is my purpose of visit, coming here already, I would say, quite regularly to our friends, meeting our friends, sharing our appreciation of situation back here is, of course, as Canadian soldiers now deployed to the Baltic states, to Latvia particularly, as to strengthening deterrence, defense of NATO's eastern front line. And being here, it's something gives me opportunity, providing some maybe advice or guidance on what to expect during the next rotation forces, to discuss with your leadership any adaptations, any changes. As we see, it's very constant adaptation is needed to be much more credible in nowadays. So sharing the knowledge, sharing the situation, appreciation what we could do better, appreciating what has been done, and it's always with a great, pleasure, but also great admiration what I'm coming here, admiring all what's Canada been doing and really sharing my great appreciation to soldiers, to members of Canadian Armed Forces, but I think particularly also to their families. They are the ones who also here on the front line staying in Canada while there are fathers, sons, husbands and spouses in Latvia.
We understand the discussions are underway with NATO that could possibly see the Canadian battle group in Latvia deployed for 6 months of the year and then another nation filling in for another 6 months of the year. What can you tell us about that? Is that your understanding?
No, Canada is persistently with their troops. It started with a battle group, so battalion size, couple hundred of soldiers already close to a decade ago. Multinational one under the Canadian leadership, integrating almost a third of NATO nations, giving the opportunity to everyone share this responsibility of providing security in our region, in overall NATO eastern flank. And now it's grown even to the brigade size. Couple last years we already had very good leadership, great brigade commanders coming over, pulling up more force along with them with Canadian battle group, but also leading some other nation battle groups who are on rotational base. Yes, others coming probably on rotational base, but Canadian troops being always persistently there. And now the renewal of a mandate of Operation Reassurance to 2031 for next 5 years just demonstrates further commitment, really credible commitment into the region.
But you're not aware of any conversations with NATO about a situation like that?
No, we are speaking, I think NATO also is happy for more present, for more, let's say, persistent force, because it's very important that forces are regularly tied to particular plans. So, because we could be only credible not only through the capabilities we can demonstrate, soldiers, planes, ships, but this credibility should be done through the plans, real defense plans, which very evaluated over, let's say, evolved during the last decade, becoming credible plans, but then through the rehearsal of these plans with really assigned and aligned forces, and Canada with Canadian-led brigade, and now also stepping up and becoming the third framework nations of multinational division, which we are forming as Latvia with Denmark together, just demonstrates their commitment to that region.
How confident are you that Canada will have a continued presence in Latvia beyond 2031?
I'm quite sure. From military leadership, seeing how it's benefits not only us, so it's not only for our society, which is very much valued, the presence of our allies, led by Canada with the biggest troop presence in Latvia. But I think it's very much to be understood that it also gives quite an advantage for the Canadian Armed Forces, for the society, learning also from us, from what we're seeing on our daily lives. For example, for Armed Forces, it's multinational environment. I think, as I said, no one else has so big multinationality, and I think it's starting from individual soldier to unit and formation leaders gives a new touch on this, how to solve the problems of integration, which been done greatly and tremendously, but also to learn new technologies. You know that we are, of course, quite close to current frontline in Ukraine, and all the lessons learning, Canada learning, it's quite good opportunity to integrate and sharing these opportunities. It's been our goal, not only having Canadian forces over, integrating them into our plans, like reassuring our society, but providing opportunity to train your soldiers in new environment, in different environment, maybe with different capabilities, which are future capabilities of Canadian Armed Forces. And in one short statement, actually, just to make it that your soldiers coming back are coming back even better soldiers for defense of your homeland, if needed here. But at the same time, I would love to say that also we all alliance in NATO and defense of any of our homeland, while of course every armed force's primary responsibility is to our population, Canadian Armed Forces to Canadian population, mine to Latvian population, but we can defend threats all together, 30 of us, all NATOs, everywhere it's needed, up front, in the front line. Unfortunately for us, if you look at Latvia, we are on the edge of NATO.
I want to ask you about that, about what you are seeing in terms of, are you learning anything new given how you are on the front edge
Indeed,
of that?
indeed.
What should Canadians know about how the Russians sort of are threatening NATO in this moment? Of course, we're watching very closely what's been going on with the war in Ukraine. But what is it that you have seen or you have learned based on how Russia is operating right now or has been operating?
Yeah. Just to conclude, with an edge, for us, for everyone, it's a NATO edge, Eastern front line. For us, it's not edge. We live there. So that's why I very appreciate that we can forward defense as much as possible with our allies. For us alone, we've been in history. We know how it's to be and how it would end. And for us, unfortunately, it ended with occupation for almost 50 years once we've been only alone, not united. We didn't have any friends in 1940s. Who could stand up with us for our independence. And now that's why it's very important. While we understand that Ukrainians probably is taking the pain now and for all of us and guarding and fighting for the values and for the time for us, mainly of course for the conventional threat what Russia could pose, we're learning from Ukraine. At the same time, we're learning that current immediate conventional threat is not possible for Russia. All their troops, all their resources are very tied and tied to Ukraine. But at the same time, of course, this unsuccessful achievement of these goals, 50-year already wars they're stuck, wherever they planned maybe for a couple of days, couple of weeks, of course, puts a big pressure on Kremlin, on doing somehow isolating Ukraine from external support, we as a NATO providing to them. Probably it's not about only our governments, our societies who would be targeted to probably isolating from supporting Ukraine. Because in our case, if you look at back in Latvia, it's not only governmental support, military support, even bigger is societal support. Everyone donates money, materials. So it's very big support to Ukraine. We are very close, and that's quite natural. And this is something we understand, and that's why it's a bit of threat that Russia might seek to either for revenge or just some destabilization activities through the provocation or destabilization activities like sabotage events, which is quite simple to recruit, to organize through the communication networks that are present now. So even not putting a big resources into this. And there would be in their interest, of course. And unfortunately, it could, in our environment, in Latvia, could be a present danger of such provocations. We don't assume that this could be targeted to any allies, because definitely NATO is much more powerful if we regard at Russia, and they would be very irrational to step up directly against NATO. But intent, of course, would be all these actions would be directed, first of all, nationally to undermine our government, our armed forces, to split us away from our societal support. But second effect they would try to achieve is to divide us multinationally. So us, multinational environment, NATO, that we are not very much united. And I think this is not very expensive capability, our cohesion, our unity, which we can build all together. And Canada is part of this, demonstrating that we are united, leading this troop of united allied multinational force. And at the military, and I think we can do it even more in all domains, political, economical, that we are united. Strong force, much more advantages on our side against Russia, deterring them even from these sabotage activities.
Okay, well, we're going to leave the conversation there. Thank you very much for your time today. Kaspars Pudāns, the Latvia's Chief of Defense Staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.